My wife and I made a commitment to each other years ago, before God, before community, and to each other, to always stay married. There was a time in our marriage when I didn't want to be married to her. We were in a counseling office. And the counselor, who was my professor in seminary, he sat across from me and my wife. She was to my left. And I told him, I don't want to be married to her anymore. I don't love her anymore. I'm giving the short version of this. I said, I don't want to be married to her. I don't want to love her. I don't love her anymore. I don't want to be married. And he said to me, what do you think love has to do with being married? And I thought he was an idiot for saying that. And then he started to just rip me a new one, politely. He says, does God love you based on what you are? Does God love you based on how good you are? Does God love you based on how kind you are, how consistent you are? And he went on like this, and he just shredded me because he taught me something very truthful, that my obligation to love is to imitate the love of God, that he loves because of what's in him, not because of what's in us, or the object to be loved, whether that object of is to be worthy of love or not worthy of love. That what God does is he loves because of who he is. He says, and who are you, Nat? And he had destroyed me right there, destroyed my argument, my self-justification, my sin. He did, flat out. And I knew right then I was wrong. And I knew right then I needed to choose to love her. That's what he said. You need to choose to love her. And now you can display what real love really is. Not just a feeling of pitter patter. And that goes away and you don't be married to her anymore. That's not what love is. Love is a commitment, a decision, and it's sacrificial. And you decide to do. And by the time we were done, I'd already committed in my mind. He is right. Now, he read her the riot act too, because she had the same attitude. And I'm not going to talk about her. I'll talk about what my responsibility was. And I remember getting out of I'm going to go somewhere with this. I remember getting out of that counseling session, and to this day, this minute, this second, right now, I remember forcing myself to open the car door for her, to help her get in the car. Even though I did not feel like it, did not want to. I was choosing deliberately to show love for her. I opened that car door. I remember that. That was my decision. All right. Next week, my wife and I will have been married 36 years. That's not a short time. It's not long as many. 36 years. And she has Louise Dietz. She has one of the rarest connective tissue disorders in the world. 25 surgeries, open heart surgery, hand surgeries, feet surgeries. And I can go in and tell you about the pain she's in, the suffering she's in, and how she's able to do things during the day sometimes, but not. Some days are good, some days are bad. And I've got to open jars for her, make food for her, and do stuff for her. Sometimes she does it for herself, but you get what I'm saying. I never once complain. I never want. It's okay. I may be tired sometime. I could do this again. Well, that's okay. But because I made a commitment to her, to my Lord, that I'm going to always love her. And love doesn't just mean the feeling, but love means a decision to commit to do what is right before God to your spouse that you promised before God. And over the years, my love for her has grown and increased that I can honestly say, I do. I just love her. It doesn't matter what condition she's in, what she can do for me, reciprocity, or if she can make me sandwiches or dinner or not, or whatever. It doesn't have any effect. The obligation for me to love her is based on what God himself has worked through my heart redemptively to send love down through to me because he's indwelling and then out to others. That's what I'm obligated to do. And that's what I tell couples. And if you start living like that with each other, both of you are to do that kind of a thing, then the other is obligated to forgive and forget because you're obligated to also forgive and forget. And the reason is because Jesus forgave you. You go to Colossians 3. As the Lord has forgiven you, you're to forgive others. And if you're to obey Christ in the forgiveness of your heart and attitude, then you don't remember a wrong. And that means you don't bring it up. It means that you have to go through what you got to go through. And sometimes you get upset with your spouse and you want to remember and bring it up again. But that's not what God does. He says, I will remember your sins no more. He doesn't forget. Remembering is active. Forgetting is passive. He doesn't bring it up again. And what do? We say, I forgive you, and then we bring it up again. We are hypocrites and we are liars in this. And in this, we hope our marriage will be blessed by God when we display the hypocrisy before God and before our spouses. And we're obligated to love. We're obligated to forgive. And it's hard, and it's not easy, and it's difficult. And sometimes our spouses are just wrong and intolerable. But we're still obligated to do what's right before God. Even when we're intolerable before God, he does what's right before us based on what his character is. And so we don't do it based on our character, because we're not the standard of righteousness. We behave based on what God's character is in the person of Jesus Christ, who said, not my will, but your will be done. And he came to show his love, laid his life down for us. John 15:13, greater love has no man than this, but he laid his life down for his friend. And we husbands and our wives are called to lay our life down for each other, to learn how to be forgiving, to learn how to be sanctified, to learn how to be holy before our spouses, and to do these things, and to be walked on if necessary, and to be as patient as possible when necessary. And when you make your mistakes, because we're human, to confess them and move forward each time. And if anybody will do this, if people will do this, marriages are healed. And I can tell you that every single time people have done what I've asked them to do, according to the scriptures, every time the marriages have been saved.